happy Mentoring Monday. Welcome to everyone who has joined us so far. Today, we have with us an alum of the VCU School of Business, Eric Rousey. He's a digital project delivery manager at CarMax and was an information systems major at the School of Business. He's also been a longstanding mentor in our Connect Mentoring program and received the Young Emerging Mentor of the Year in 2016. So the plan for today is hear a bit about Eric's journey, how he was involved at VCU, and how it led to his career path. He'll chime in a few words of advice for dealing with this unusual time, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers from you as we go along. So at any time in this session, if something Eric says resonates with you, or if it spurs some questions, go ahead and type it into the chat box, and then I'll take a summary of those questions and we'll throw those at Eric and see what he has to say. So thanks again, Eric, for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Kate sort of gave a little bit of an overview of my sort of credentials. I did graduate in 2013, information systems major, and also got a minor in music. While I was at VCU, I was active in a couple of different organizations, but most notably probably the Business Student Ambassadors. So if I have any fellow BSAs out there, that's awesome. And so I just wanted to give a brief overview of sort of how I got to where I am. So I do work at CarMax. I've been here for about 6.5 years now, actually probably going closer to 7. And so my time at CarMax started very shortly after I graduated from VCU. I was actually a software developer for a little bit of time prior to coming over to CarMax, and then actually was reached out to by a recruiter on LinkedIn about an opportunity at CarMax, and was really excited about the opportunity. So sort of jumped on that, and have had a couple of different opportunities at CarMax since joining CarMax. So I did a little bit of support in our help desk, did a little bit of software development, and then as Kate said, I'm a product delivery manager, which is a fancy title for a project manager. So I've been doing that for about 3 years now. Wanted to sort of talk about some of the resources that I know are available at VCU and sort of give some advice there. Kate sort of alluded to the fact that we are obviously in a very weird time right now, but I know that a lot of the resources that are at VCU are still available, be them virtually, like something like this. All of your faculty and staff members should be available via email and video chats. So being sure that you're taking the opportunities that are available to you, even as you're sitting on your couch at home, is going to be just as important as it is if you were on campus. So I really do want to stress that. I also think that this is a really cool opportunity and new opportunity to learn how to work remotely. A lot of companies work remotely 100% of the time. A lot of companies, especially ones that are global, work with people all over the world. And so this is just a cool learning opportunity for you to get used to using these resources to have professional relationships with your fellow students, as well as with faculty and staff members at VCU and anybody else that you're interacting with through these opportunities. I already sort of talked about it, but some of the resources that you have that are available virtually, like still being able to get your resumes checked through career services or doing informational interviews, because even though it might not seem like a really good job opportunity right now or a really good sort of job market, there are a lot of companies that are still looking to hire immediately. There are a lot of opportunities for internships this summer and in future summers. And I know internships are the biggest opportunity for you to build your networks. So I know you probably hear it a lot. Keep checking the internships, keep applying for internships. I had 3 internships while I was at VCU. One of them in a completely unrelated, not anything that ended up helping me in my career other than good professional development. I was a concert production assistant for an entire summer. So even if it's something that you have a little bit of interest in, it's really good business opportunities that you can learn about. So don't be afraid to apply for those internships. And then, like I said, internships are the biggest way that you can build your networks, so that even if you don't get a job, a full-time job out of school at the company that you interned with, you can build those relationships to be able to find future opportunities at other companies as well. So I am probably one of the biggest proponents of putting yourself out there, build your network. LinkedIn, I spoke about it earlier. I got my job at CarMax because of my LinkedIn network. I had connected with a couple of recruiters that were outside of my current network, and they ended up looking at my profile and determining that I would be a good fit for a job that they were trying to fill. And it worked out beautifully, and I'm still in touch with those same recruiters and help them to find other people to build into their networks. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I would highly recommend building a LinkedIn profile. Take some examples of your fellow students, your professors and faculty members. I know that there are a lot of really good examples out there. I don't want to necessarily boast that mine is the greatest, but if you feel like you want to go take a look at my LinkedIn profile, I'm happy to connect with any of you guys as well, and help you build out your profiles and resumes as well. So I think that's it's all the highest level advice that I have. I do want to get the majority of my time for your questions and answers, because I think that that's probably going to be the most helpful for you guys. So if you have them, shoot them my way, and we'll go through some.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So can you give us a little snapshot of when you were in that first internship that may or may not have linked to your actual career path, to the next internship and full-time job, and then your trajectory at CarMax, just kind of how that's worked out for you?
Yeah, so the internship that I had my sophomore year, like I said, didn't really relate to my current career. At the time, I was a music major, and so a concert production assistant made perfect sense for a music major. It, again, did not ultimately, the skills that I learned there didn't directly impact my current career, but I take every opportunity that I have as a learning opportunity, whether it be a really specific skill or a soft skill that you're learning, like communication, or just general business knowledge about how to prioritize the work that you have, and the responsibilities that you have in a particular instance are going to help you in the long run. And then I had a second internship as a software developer and system administrator at the company that I work for, coming right out of college as well. So that turned directly into a full-time job coming out of college. And so I think a lot of times companies are looking to take internships and transfer them directly into a full-time hire. It doesn't always work out that way, and that's okay, because you're still getting the opportunities to learn and grow in your current situation that you can transfer into a full-time job. And a lot of times, if a company does not have a full-time job for you to transfer into out of an internship, they will help you find full-time work elsewhere. They are not just going to throw you out on the curb and say, good luck finding a full-time job, because those networks are still going to be really helpful for you. And then my sort of trajectory and career path at CarMax, I found that I just sort of asked for opportunities. I think a lot of times you need to sort of be your own advocate. And so as I saw new opportunities and new interesting opportunities for myself, I would have conversations with my managers and the hiring managers for the positions that I was interested in, and just make a case as to why I think I should be somebody that could move into those positions. And so, like I said, I've ended up having 4 different positions at CarMax, and all of those were not necessarily one-to-one directly related to each other. They were not on the same career ladder, if you will. They were sort of bouncing from side to side. And so being able to ask for and advocate for yourself as you see opportunities that you think you would be interested in, that would be good learning opportunities for you. I think CarMax is very unique in the ability for them to take risks and allow people to learn. And so I will sort of shameless plug for CarMax in that way, say that CarMax is really good about letting their associates learn in new opportunities and not necessarily come into an opportunity with 100% knowledge of what they'll be doing. And there are a lot of companies out there that do that. So being your advocate and saying, look, I want this opportunity. How can we make it happen? And even if you have to sort of stretch into an opportunity, and what I mean by that is you're not always given a title, you're not always given the specific responsibilities, but you take the ownership of new responsibilities yourself and you prove yourself over time, then the sort of title and pay and all the compensation that comes along with a particular role will come after that, but not always necessarily waiting for somebody to say, okay, now you're this position, so you should go to do these things. It's taking the responsibility and starting yourself to grow into those opportunities. Did that sort of get to your question, Kate?
Yes, thanks. That's helpful. And I think it's good context for everyone to kind of be thinking of more questions as you go along. So we have a few here that are very topical about hiring freezes. And so first, as far as your knowledge, do you know if CarMax has a hiring freeze for recent grads or internships right now? And then as a part 2, what would be your advice if folks do find out that due to hiring freezes, their offer has been rescinded?
Yeah, so I cannot speak officially for CarMax as to whether we have a hiring freeze or not. I do know that we have posted on our jobs website that we are pulling a lot of the current openings that we have, just with the uncertainty of the times. But again, I can't sort of speak officially as to a broad change in our hiring processes. But more broadly, I would say hiring freezes are probably going to happen. A lot of companies have implemented hiring changes over the last couple of weeks and months. And so I think there's probably 2 different buckets that folks could fall into. One being that they had already received an offer that has been rescinded because of a hiring freeze or a change in hiring practices. And then I think conversely, those still looking for new opportunities that have maybe there are no opportunities or they don't see relevant opportunities available to them because of this. I think the first bucket, I would be very surprised if most companies would not keep you on their radar. So if there was a decision that needed to be made that an opportunity was rescinded because of the hiring freeze, that once the situation stabilizes, that they would not reach back out and attempt to make a hire at that point. I think being very open-minded and understanding in this opportunity or in this space is going to be really important. There are things that companies sort of are going to have to do that are not necessarily the easiest for them to do or the most convenient for everybody. And so being understanding is, I know I can speak that CarMax would appreciate everybody's understanding. And so I know a lot of other companies are going to really be appreciative of your understanding if they do have to make a difficult decision. For those that have not necessarily nailed down an opportunity for this summer or for for if they're graduating into full-time opportunities. I would say keep looking. It's gonna be difficult building out your networks. And then continuing every day, companies are having to make decisions. This is the fastest I've ever seen any companies have to move. And so every day they're making new decisions, whether they should be hiring or not hiring, or whether they should have these positions posted or not. So checking back often is going to be very, very helpful. There are also a lot of recruiting networks at companies. So CarMax as an example, but again, not officially speaking on behalf of CarMax. We have a recruiting network that you don't necessarily apply for a particular position, but you share your resume and your relevant experience with the network. And then as positions become available, you get notified of those positions. And so taking those opportunities to sign up for those types of notifications from companies that you're interested in will be very beneficial in the future, because those opportunities will become available as things start stabilizing. A lot of companies are putting decisions in place right now that are going to be very temporary. They're not making permanent decisions, at least the majority of the time. So keep looking, keep your head up, build your network. I think those are probably the three things that I could say.
Okay, thanks. And so related to that, briefly, if you could, so how did you mentioned that you reached out to recruiters outside of your network on LinkedIn. How did you find those, and what was your criteria for selecting one of those recruiters or a few to connect with?
Yeah, so I will be honest, I did not take a lot of the ownership of that. They actually reached out to me before an opportunity was available. So I know a lot of people, as you start building your network and as you start putting more of your experience on LinkedIn, those recruiters are constantly doing searches to see if there are people who may fit the profiles that they're looking to hire. And so, yeah, you might not know who a person is when they invite you to connect on LinkedIn, but not being afraid to hit accept and then send a message and say, hey, I'm really glad that we connected. Is there something that you were looking for particularly right now, or opportunities that you have open right now that you think I'm a good fit for? And then keeping those relationships. So I would message after they messaged me and said, hey, we have this opportunity. Are you interested? There were a couple times where I was not interested in the opportunity that they sent, but said, please keep me on your radar as you have new opportunities available. LinkedIn also has the opportunity, or the feature that you can notify recruiters that you are actively looking for a position. And you don't necessarily have to make that part of your public profile. So even if you are currently employed, you can say that you are actively looking for new opportunities, and then only people who are in recruiting fields at companies that are not your current company will be notified that you are looking for new opportunities. So I would say, if you haven't, check out sort of the jobs and career aspect of LinkedIn and say that you are actively looking for new opportunities, and that will trigger them to be able to reach out to you.
Great. That's passive job searching at its finest.
It really is. But I think that you don't necessarily always have to put in all of the work in a job situation. Recruiters are literally there to find people that they think would be good fits for a position. So sort of allowing them to do their job takes a little bit of the burden off of you.
And I will throw in a plug for Eric's LinkedIn profile. So I included it in the chat. You can check it out. It's pretty on point as far as just having everything filled out, having an intro, a great profile picture, and then a good job history. So yeah, take a look. I would even say, as you work on building your own profiles, you can build a little list, maybe 3 to 5 profiles that you really admire, and notice what they have on there, and apply that to yours. So that's a great way to build your own LinkedIn profile if you're not really sure how to go about that. So we have a question here, Eric, about your day-to-day in your role,
Yep.
and what that looks like. If you can share a little more about that.
So my day-to-day, literally today, and in the current situation, does closely reflect what my day-to-day would have been like prior to working remotely. So I will bucket them in the same comments. So as a project manager, my job is primarily to enable the teams that I support to do their jobs. And so that might mean making sure that they have the resources available to them, whether it's technologically or connecting with other people inside of the organization that they need to partner with to do their job. I also think that part of my responsibility is to keep people accountable to the things that they said that they need to do, or that they have to do. And that's not necessarily telling them what they have to do, but having them identify the steps that they need to take to do their job, and then making sure that they stay on track for those things. I think a lot of times people see project managers as the sort of bosses that tell people what they have to do and what timelines they have to stay on. And that's not my job. It's my job to make sure that that people are identifying their own timelines and their own responsibility lists, and then keeping them on task of the things that they've already identified. I do a lot of meetings with various different groups to make sure that my teams have the understanding of any partners that they need to partner with in the organization or externally. I am currently working on a partnership that has both people inside of CarMax and outside of CarMax remotely. And so making sure that the connections are being made there and facilitating those conversations is really beneficial as well. And then lastly, I do have to do some of the sort of number crunching, the reporting, and making sure that we've got budgets and all of those types of things. And so I'm regularly checking in on those things and making sure that I can report out on the progress of the teams, because ultimately my organization is making an investment in our team, and so they need to make sure that they can see a return on the investment as my team is making progress on what we're building. So.
Great, thanks. So we have one here about advocating for yourself. And you mentioned that, as you're in your own career experience, you gained new roles by putting yourself out there, taking responsibility of your next steps and what you're interested in, and that advocating for yourself was a part of that. Can you share a little bit more about what that means, and maybe a few specific examples of how you might go ahead and do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think advocating for yourself first starts with having sort of a conversation with yourself to make sure that you understand what your interest areas are and how the skills that you have can align to those interest areas. And so I almost sort of view it as, if you sat down and got ready to apply for a job, you're going to read the job description. You're going to see if you feel like you're a good fit for those or that job description. Advocating for yourself is very similar to applying for an external job or applying for any position. It's first taking a step back and saying, okay, let me look at my interests. Do they align to this new opportunity? Do I think that I'm a good fit for this opportunity? And if so, then taking the steps to make it known that you are interested in that opportunity. And that's not always going to work out. There have been opportunities that I've been interested in at CarMax that I have not gotten, or that have not been a good fit for me after getting into conversations with others. But advocating for yourself is, it's similar to how people would problem solve. I go to a particular person and say, I am interested in this position, and here is the solution to how we might remedy me being interested in that opportunity. And so I say solution as in, I don't want to come to somebody and just say, hey, I want that job. I'm going to come to somebody and say, I want this job or this opportunity because of X, Y, and Z. And here are the opportunities that I think I have to learn in this role. Here are the opportunities that I think I have to make a positive impact in this role. And here's why I think I would be a good fit. And so advocating for yourself is identifying the opportunity, identifying why you think you are a good fit for the opportunity, and then making it known and communicating openly that you are interested in the opportunity, that you are looking for a new challenge or a new way to learn. I think very similarly, if you find yourself not being challenged in your current role, even if there's no opportunities that you've identified that are posted as jobs, but you find that you are bored feels like a bad word to use here, but if you're bored in your current role, you're not being challenged enough, or you want new learning opportunities. Maybe you don't go to somebody specifically and say, this is a job that I want. You go to them and say, this is what I'm feeling currently. Can we look for new opportunities, or can you keep me in mind as new opportunities become available? So I think it's very similar to if you were to be looking externally for a job. It is just that you're doing it within the confines of a current company as opposed to externally.
Okay, thanks so much. So in the interest of time, we're almost up at our 1:30 end time. And so, Eric, I would love to hear if you could share one or two things that you're doing as you work from home. How are you personally getting through this? I know Goofy is a beloved family member of yours.
So Goofy's my dog who's sitting right here. I'm really glad that he has not barked or gone crazy during all of this. But yeah, so I've been trying to keep as normal of a routine as possible. I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice that you are hearing from most people at this point. Just because you're working from home does not mean that you should break your normal routine. And that means, for me personally, it means getting up and going and taking lunch and not sitting at my computer and working during lunch. It's making sure that I'm, as silly as it sounds, getting up and taking a shower and getting dressed in the morning, as opposed to rolling out of bed and hopping on a conference call directly, because I'm not going to do my best work if I'm not prepared mentally and physically, frankly, to sit in front of the computer and work. And then lastly, getting outside. I go on like daily walks and make sure that you're trying to stay healthy, and that can be a healthy thing physically and mentally. If you have the opportunity to walk outside, that's great. If you don't, it's sort of just unplugging from everything and taking that mental break to clear your head. So that's sort of what I'm doing, and it's been working good so far, so I'm going to keep it up.
Yeah, and speaking of getting outside, today's weather is quite nice, right? So to take a moment and get outside, pet your dog, keep your routine. These are all good things that I'm hearing, and thanks for sharing what's been working for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks so much, Eric, for joining us today and being transparent about some of the things, your own journey, and how your current role is doing, and how you're maintaining your sense of normalcy and embracing the change. Again, Eric's LinkedIn profile is in the chat if you want to check out his page or connect with him. Sounds like he's open to connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
And if you have any questions that you thought about after the fact, feel free to shoot them to me. It's fantastic.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much. And we'll be sending out a video recording of this too, if you want to go back, and if there's something that Eric said that you were like, hey, what exactly, how did he put that? Or, there's some nuggets of wisdom for sure in here. So thanks again. We'll be having Mentoring Mondays all throughout April. And we'll also have Wellness Wednesdays during the lunch hour too, to talk about wellness. So have a great rest of your day, and happy Monday.
Bye, guys.